or I can share it to your page as well. Hello,
Okay,
everybody. Just to thank you so much for hanging tight with us while we get all the tech ready. We are coming live here for part 2 of our conversations on love, unity, and divine oneness. Me and my friend Nefrit, we started these conversations last month, and now we have another friend, Pastor Ellen, joining us to talk more about love, to focus on the unity that already exists within all of us based on humanity, that takes us beyond the lines of spiritual division or political division or the regional divisions or the religious divisions, and how no matter what, we all are one. Even if we are living in different bodies, we are part of one soul. So that is what this conversation is going to be about. And our mission or our goal, or we are trusting that these conversations wake up or activate something within you where you can start embodying that unity, that unconditional love and divine oneness within your personal life. And also you can contribute to the global light that we all are required or being asked to tune into. So with that, I'm going to let my friend Nefrit introduce herself, and then we'll go to Pastor Allen.
Thank you. Everybody. I am very, very honored to be here and share the space with 2 other amazing women. I've been having these kind of conversations with Alia and Pastor Allen for a year, ever since I came back from eating disorder treatment. And I went through a very rattling, transformative, life-changing journey that led me to the understanding, very profound, transformative journey, led me to understanding that we are really here to be a point of love to others and light. And really, this is one of my missions, if not the mission, that I really want to pursue. And I invited my friend Pastor Allen to join us. And Pastor Allen, do you want to introduce yourself really quick?
Sure, very quickly. I'm an ordained Lutheran pastor. Came to this later in life to becoming a pastor. I had what I would consider an awakening or in my 40s, thinking that life is more than just going to work and getting caught up in the mundane things of life. That we actually have a very we have a spiritual life that is really what gives us is what gives us eternal life. It keeps us going, and it keeps us connected to God and to one another. And love, this way of love, is so much a part of that. And I think all the world religions, I don't know the specifics of all the world religions, but I feel like that this is a common theme in all the world religions, that this way of love is what unifies us, and it's what gives us renewed life as people of God. And it's what it is what brings us together, and it's what gives us peace as well, internal peace. And our call is to share it so that all people can have this unity, can feel at peace within themselves. So
yeah, I wanted to kind of take this one moment and thank you for joining us, Pastor Ellen, introducing yourself.
Thank you. I'm humbled. Thank you. I will listen and contribute where I can contribute, but you all are, I feel like, light years ahead of me in a certain way about all this spirituality and sharing love and light. So I'm a participant, and I'm a learner. I'm here to be a student too.
I think we're all teachers and students all at the same time. Yeah. It's really important to recognize that. But I really wanted to kind of take a moment and highlight that we're here in this space kind of representing 3 major religions in the world in one space in unity. And it's really important to highlight that, because in this time, specifically in this time, there's so much strife and division and conflict over politics, over religion, over physical borders. So really the point of this is to kind of, I think, to accept and contain and be a container for all the pain and the hate, and it's very understandable, a very human thing to go through, to understand this is part of our reality. But instead of falling into the hate and the violence, and again, which is very human inclination, very understandable, to still be able to, move forward with compassion, with want to reunite and reconnect to one another despite all of this, and lead to a new future, because really at the end of the day we all want a different future. And so I think this is really the point of it.
Thank you so much for sharing that, Nefrit. I think for this conversation, we all wanted to highlight how we are grounding in love. Because last time when me and Nefrit, we had this conversation, we were talking about how we both found that within us. And now, given what we are going through in our home country right now, there's a lot of separation, division that is happening. A lot of people, they're feeling very uncomfortable. How can we ground in love within right here? It's not about, global. I'll think about the next country when I'm ready for it. But right now it's happening right here. Within homes, within friends, there's division, separation. A lot of people, they have to they're already going through hoops to secure their marriages, their futures, their whatnot. How can we ground in love when we can see that very visible divide happening in our own community, in our own neighborhood, in our own town? So that is where this conversation, my friend, is going to go. We have no idea. There's no script. We all will be sharing the light that is coming through us. I will say this is more of a channeled conversation, and we are trusting that it activates something within you. It can take you out of the chaos that is within you, and it can bring a little bit of calmness and relaxation within you, that there is another way of being. As Nefrit was sharing, yes, human pain is there, valid, will always be there. There's always another way to be, to feel, to think. We can come out of that victimhood consciousness, and we can love ourselves and others from that point of light that we are, and the consciousness of love that is available to us. So Nefrit, would you like to share first? How are you grounding yourself in love right now?
Yeah, I mean, I think, for many it might be very challenging if this is something that they're just starting to practice and think about. I've gone through a long, long way, and I think my main challenge has been really my internal struggle, my internal strife with myself, inside myself, towards myself. And so I've gone through the very basic transformation of how do I give love to myself? How do I start giving myself grace when I grew up feeling there's something defective with me, essentially? But I think a lot of people right now, what they're dealing with is obviously very global. I mean, here in the United States, post-election, there's a lot of strife and division, and globally in the Middle East and in Asia. And I mean, it's really everywhere. And so for somebody to say, okay, I'm just going to start loving everybody, it's obviously it's like a huge leap. But I've gone through a long, long time of practicing that and being aware. So I think really the first point, that's exactly what I just touched on. I think it's awareness first. And it's kind of picking back on our previous conversation, is how to be a responsible thinker. So I think when you start noticing where your feelings are going, towards where are they going? What am I feeling? It's a lot of mindfulness, being kind of observing first your emotions, observing your feelings, recognizing them. And then there comes a time when you need to make a choice. How do I take that pause? And what do I want to feel? And I think for me, I almost want to call it, I saw it somewhere lately, somewhere wrote about radical compassion. And I think I adopted that, and something that I really strive to live in myself. I see how here, at least in the United States, it really affected me because the people that I see, they are looking for unity. They're looking for acceptance. They're looking for understanding. I see it from that end too. There's a lot of hate, and there's a lot of, and it's kind of ironic. So, if you're looking to be accepted, I think giving it out to the world, and we're talking about grounding. To me, it's practicing that radical compassion to all living beings. For me, it's very grounding to feel how to kind of lead with a lot of humbleness, and to just connect. I mean, I've gone through a lot of a different process of meditation and kind of a lot of self-reflection, but I think understanding what it is that I want to bring into the world, what it is that I don't want to bring into the world, and focusing on that within me and sending it out to that fabric of the universe is what gives me grounding, because I know that the only thing that I can do is control my actions, control my thoughts, control my feeling. Not control, but more be kind of in charge of. And to me, it's very grounding to know and humbling that I don't need to go and, I mean, you could be a world leader and you could create a change like that, but really, my goal is to create change within my own, what it is that I can do, and that's grounding for me. And that to be love, to act with love, to think with love, wherever I can. I'm not a saint. It's very challenging, but I try and I practice that every day. And I will pass the torch on to Pastor Alan, maybe, and then Alia.
I
How
have
about you?
perhaps a couple of responses or things to add to what you already said very beautifully, Nefrit.
Of course.
Or just maybe I will affirm or agree with what you said. Yeah, I mean, I think it starts, not to sound selfish and egocentric, no, but I think it starts with self-love, really. If we don't know how to love ourselves, it's hard to learn how to love somebody else, or to give love, or act in, act with love and think with love. So, and loving ourselves, at least for me, I concur what you said, Nefrit, is kind of the hardest part. I mean, learning to forgive ourselves for whatever it is, learning to give ourselves grace, learning to accept ourselves, love ourselves as we are, and then, learning once we're able to do that. And I think it's an ongoing process. I don't think we ever. It's not something we ever reach. It's something we have to constantly do. It's an ongoing giving ourselves grace, and learning from things that happen to us in life, essentially. But I think grounding for me is just, as you said, humility, viewing other people as not us and them. I mean, it's all us. There's not this dichotomy, and there's not. Our human minds, I think, like to create these false, false dichotomies where it's us and them. No, it's not us and them. It's we. It's all we, right? So treating each other as equals, and respecting and treating, others the way we would like to be treated. And then in terms of grounding, I mean, for me, I go in and out of, reading scripture and different ways of trying to ground myself. I don't meditate like Nefrit does, probably. I do try and have quiet time though in the morning. I really need some quiet time, and maybe a contemplative prayer is maybe a better word for it. But sometimes it's just though going outside for a walk and connecting with nature. If I can walk through the woods and just around in the fields and stuff, it's just connecting with nature for me, connecting with creation is very grounding, and it reminds me that I'm part of something I cannot ever fully understand. It's an enormous mystery, essentially, but a beautiful mystery, and it's much, much larger than any of us. But it's, yeah, and I find that grounding. And also grounding is just reaching out to others, right? We have to stay connected to other people in any way we can. Conversation. Somebody needs help with something, reach out to help. This, that, and the other. I think that's all sharing. That's sharing love and grace. So, and that helps keep me grounded also.
That is so beautiful. The way you shared, especially the nature part, I'm like, I'm feeling grounded as you're talking about it. For me, one of the things I've been focusing on, like Nefrit has been focusing on awareness, I've been focusing on perception. How do I perceive this reality? Like, whether it's, the election results, whether it's the concern of the loved ones, because it's one thing to just hear like, okay, like, things are difficult for certain communities, but it's another thing than when you are that.
Yes.
And then you question yourself. Like there's two things that just happen. One is like, I got this letter sometime in summer that said there's some kind of lawsuit going on and I am part of it and blah, 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 blah. I don't have to do anything. And I thought because I worked in the lab and we were told that sometimes stuff happens and maybe after even 20 years you'll get a letter or something. I said maybe one of the labs I worked in is, going through something. But last week, I got a letter where they said the lawsuit has been settled and here's your piece of settlement. And that is when I was like, okay, this is a little real. There's a check coming. It was like only $57 check. I started digging deeper into it. And what it was that somebody at some point compiled a list of a lot of people and categorize them. Don't give them job. Don't give them this. Don't give them that. I was one of those people. But then somebody somewhere said, this is unfair. I'm going to fight on these people's behalf. And that person fought for it, won, and took, I don't know how many millions and billions they got out of it, and sent a little bit to everyone. So I was sitting with these two things. On one hand, I had no idea I was on some kind of list and I was being discriminated against. I had no idea. And on the other hand, I was just like, I have no idea who this person is, and I'm getting this $57 as in the mail. Like, how beautiful is that? Like, someone out there who have no idea who I am fought on my behalf.
Fought on your behalf.
And, the kind of love it takes for another human, the kind of empathy it takes, or whatever, of course, like, they got a cut and whatnot, but the kind of light that is within us. So that just validated for me. I was like, well, I can let my perception go crazy and I can focus on all the results and whatnot. And I mean, I'm an immigrant. My husband is an immigrant. He already asked me twice. He's like, we have to leave the country. Which country you'll go to? And my answer to him was, I am not creating that reality because all I'm doing is focusing on my perception. What I perceive this reality to be, what I perceive my today to be, what I perceive my tomorrow to be, and that is very valid at home. At the community level, what do I perceive my country to become in next 4 years? it's valid on that level. And what do I perceive the world to become on in the next coming decades, especially the world we are leaving behind for our kids? If we look at the current affairs, of course, our fearful mind, the part of us that feels unsafe, wants to run and go crazy and create all kind of explosive realities. And that is where I practice, as Nefrit said, choice. I pause and I choose to perceive something different. Mm-hmm. I feel so unreal. It's like, can't you see like what humanity has been doing? But no, we all have the choice. And I believe through these conversations or whatever, all the different communities are bringing to the surface, we have choice to perceive a different reality. We have the choice to be in harmony with that inner nature that is within us. To perceive, yes, we can be loved. To perceive, the three people who come from very different background, they can all come together and they can talk about the exact same thing. We can perceive that. So I will say, whoever is listening, question your perception. And it's very easy to say, well, I'm a good person, I love everybody. Most of us, we lie to ourselves. I know I lie to myself. I question myself. Like today, just something happened on a personal level. Somebody sent me a text message, basically, complaining and saying bad things about me. And I responded to that is not true. And I just met with another slap. And I was like, Alia, just sit here and perceive. What do you want the reality to look like? And in that, as Nefrit said, she can see this side, she can also see this side. I was able to see for that person, that is their perception and it's very valid. But what do I choose to perceive? Do I want to be the victim and I want to fight back? Or do I just want to say, you're love, I'm love. And maybe this moment it requires, I go here, you stay there. But I will still choose to love you because, as Pastor Alan said, you're still part of me. And one last thing I wanted to share, as Pastor Alan was saying, about self-love, one of my mentors brought this point in past 1 month. Every religion teaches love your neighbor like yourself, right? Every religion teaches that, no matter what we pick up. The problem is we don't even know how to love ourselves. Mm-hmm. So when I hate myself, I think that is a pass I have to hate you. When I feel guilty within me, I feel like I can make the other person feel guilty. So what Nefrit was sharing, the only work we can really do is clean up within ourselves to align more with light within ourselves. So as we come closer to the point where I can love and accept who I am, it becomes a little bit easier to love and accept another person who's just an extension of me. So for me, the biggest grounding piece has been perception, questioning myself every single day. And there are some days it's easy. There are days my mind is like, I am done with it. Let me just live in the victimhood. So I let it have its thing for a couple of hours, but coming back to perceiving the world we want to create.
Yeah, and thank you, both of you, for sharing your beautiful point of views. It's really interesting, that point that you brought up with wanting to run away from your country and just, where are we going to move? And it's really interesting because I hear that from a lot of people right now. It's so many people are, in their own communities, they feel fear and they feel threatened. Where do we run to? There's nowhere to run. That's the thing. It's happening all over the world. So what's the solution? Is not running away. It's taking responsibility and leading, holding the torch and leading into a different future. And it's I hear it from my home country in Israel, and and the Palestinians and the Gazans and the Lebanese and Ukrainian and Russians, and it's really everywhere, and it's heartbreaking. I feel the pain and the suffering of everybody. And here in the United States, we have the marginalized communities who are feeling threatened. And I'm air quoting it because this is just what society deems them to be marginalized. But really, really, the point is that every community all over the world, and it's a human thing to do, to focus on your own ilk, on your own people. And that's just, focusing on your own suffering. And there's a lot of anger in the world because when people are inflicting violence on others, especially in the ones that you love, it's very difficult to say, well, how am I going to love right now when I'm being wronged? When people are doing this very violent acts, whether if it's verbal or actual physical violence, how do I even ground myself in love? And again, it's very understandable. People have this need to, like, I want somebody to pay, the revenge, the need for revenge. I want somebody to pay for what they're doing. But I believe that this is where our human spirit, I feel like we belong to this oneness, to this love consciousness. You can call it God, and you can call it Jesus or Allah, or it doesn't matter. To me, it's all different names to the same source. We come from that source to this earthly existence, in this human existence, with a free will. And there's a purpose to that, because these tests, these very, very rattling, heart-wrenching tests, are an opportunity for us. This is when we can make the choice of, do we want to follow this violence and hate? And I understand why there's so much anger. It's not, it's you can't dismiss it. But if you keep going on that trend, it's only going to perpetuate more wars and more division. So we get a choice. We come here with a free will, and we can all choose the way of violence, and we can all choose the way of the opposite of love and light. And when we make that choice, despite of these very hard tests, when we make that choice, we kind of add, and like you said, Alia and Pastor Ellen, we are part of a one. And when we contribute into this oneness, whatever we can, because we can only control our own actions. When we contribute this light into this whole, we actually are we're helping the rest of the world. And when each and every one of us will make the same decision to be just in our own space. I keep thinking there's 8 billion people in the world. And I think we talked about it before. There is so many moving parts that we as human beings cannot even dream of, at least not in this form, in our spiritual evolutionary point. We cannot even fathom to understand and see. But we are connected. Every living thing, this earth is connected. Every little thing affects something else. So there is no way we can even understand why things happen the way they do. And we can't make decisions on how to change it all, but we can change. We can create a difference, and that's by contributing our acts of love. And when each and every one of us will make this decision, despite of our own challenges, whether it's in ourselves, in our home, in our countries, once we all start making these decisions to be a point of love, to radically not judge others, radically accept ourselves and others, the situations, and choose to be a point of love, the whole I think the whole is going to just kind of step up. It's going to be incremental, this is how I see it, incremental steps moving up towards that future that we want, but it needs to start with the individual.
Yeah, it's like that energy, right? That Nefrit, you've often talked about the love energy, right? I don't know, maybe I'm probably not saying it right, but yeah, I mean, the energy that we bring to the world makes a difference, right? It can be positive love energy, or it can be negative negative energy, and it affects everything around us. We can't see that necessarily right away, but I think it does.
And as Nefrit was saying, it's almost like, there's a chain reaction going on, just like how in our lineage, there's like trauma being passed down generation after generation, and then one person says, no more. I'm going to choose to tap into a different aspect of me, and they start creating those shifts.
Exactly.
And I feel like, now we are being called to create that shift on a global level. And that is going to require people doing it on personal level. So when I get to a place that I don't see my family or my siblings or my extended family separate than me, I can see the oneness. That is when I contribute to the oneness of the globe. And I think it's so beautiful that most of us feel like we are so out of control and we are unsafe, but in truth, we all are in control, and we all are safe in that choice that we can make, for sure. So I think we're coming to a 33-minute mark over here. Anything we would like to contribute to anyone who's listening, how they can ground themselves or whatever they are going through, any tip or advice we all want to share? Nefrit, would you like to go first?
Yeah, I think really, again, I'm going back to my first point is in feeling, I got very, very stressed out with the thought of I'm very non-violent person. Myself, my true spirit is, I can't even fathom inflicting any violence on anything. And I kept clashing inside myself. How can all these conflicts resolve without violence, without weapons? How can humans resolve all these conflicts without violence? And again, I realized it's not mine. I do not need to solve these things. All I need to do is be a point of light to myself and to the world, and that's all I need to do. That's my only job here, is to be a point of luminance and of love in my own way. And it takes kind of the stress away, and that gave me a kind of a room to breathe. Wow, I can do that. I mean, it's not as easy as as it sounds, and that takes a lot of work too, and understanding and contemplation. But I don't feel like I don't need to worry about it. It's up to the universe. It's up to God. It's up to that divine to put all the pieces together and solve it. All I need to do is add my little drop, and help my kids and help whoever it is that I can to kind of create a movement in myself and in my surrounding towards that love. And it's all I can do, and it's all I need to do. And that's, to me, was a good understanding to come to. What about you, Pastor Alan?
Wow, you said that beautifully. I'm not sure I have anything to add to that. You said it all.
Oh, I doubt that. I learned a lot from you, Pastor Alan, and so.
No. Well, I mean, just trusting in, as you said, in God, trusting in this universal love, it's hard for us to when we're just one person, right? And we're feeling like the world is falling apart. Essentially, it is hard to feel like everything's going to be okay. But I think exactly what you said, Nefrit, we start with ourselves, right? And learn to love ourselves, which then emanates outward. We love those and share that with those around us in our families, in our communities. And I think one thing that helps me a lot is just gratitude, just remembering prayers of gratitude. Like there's so much that I have been graced with. We've all been graced with each and every day, just little things, right? We have enough food to feed our families, and we have, a house to live in. We have this and we have that. And I'm like, I'm just remembering to be grateful for what we have. That helps me. Being grateful for what I have, and trying to, I don't know. I guess that's all I have to say. I'll pass it on to you, Alia. Pass the torch.
Beautiful. That is so beautiful. As Nefrit was talking about, I had this one thing that I can definitely do for myself, and I can offer that for anyone who's listening. Yes, there will always be some kind of chaos outside of us. Yes, we do have, maybe a few years before we get to that consciousness of oneness for the whole globe. But what I can do or choose to do today is be light. So when I step out of the house, maybe I still have a lot to resolve within me. Maybe I can treat other people from the point of light. I can talk to the cashier as if the light is talking to the cashier. I can... when someone cut me off on the road, I can act like the light. So I can choose to step into that for the time being while I am resolving things within me, while I still don't make sense of the world around me or outside of me. In that moment, we can choose to be like the light. Mm-hmm. And I think that in itself is going to create ripple effect. When we see someone who looks different than us, and we can go into how would light treat this person. I think that can create a massive ripple effect in the consciousness collectively.
Yeah, I that's perfect. What you both shared, Pastor Ellen, gratitude is huge, huge, huge. And Alia, the same thing. It's exactly what it is. It's kind of a practical, like, how do you... and I found that I made so many connections throughout my lifetime, and especially in my adulthood, just different religions and spiritual affiliations and ages and walks of life and different just a lot of different communities. And I think I found that when I meet a person, and I think this is, if we all, I think, acted in that way, when I meet a person, I see beyond their political views, I see beyond their color, their shape, beyond their countries. It doesn't matter to me. This is all externals. I always look into the light within them. I connect to that light inside, because underneath, this is how we all are. So when you are connecting to that, like you said, the cashier just smiling to somebody, that's an act of light. Doing the smallest thing, it doesn't have to be like world-changing. Acts of light is when you approach the world and you approach other people, when you see the light in them first. That's what you see first. This is what you talk to. You don't, I don't care if they're pink or blue or triangled or, circle. To me, I talk to that connection. And then when you talk to that light, when you act with light, when you act with humbleness, there's a connection that is being made. A connection beyond and underneath externals. And I think when we all would, when you carry yourself this way in the world, you will find that you are creating these connections. You would find that you connect to others because you don't connect to what the eye sees. You don't connect to their politics. We are not politics. We are not religions. Religion is a language, and it's something to acknowledge and recognize and respect, but it's a language. So we are not that. So when you lead with that, lead, like Alia said, with acts of light from the smallest thing, it's creating a ripple effect, not just in the world, but inside of you. It's, start with one thing. Try to see that compassion into the insides of what is really underneath all of that in others. Beyond, again, politics. And I want to share a little story, and I shared it with both of you before we started, and I think it's kind of pertinent. So we have this little fish pond, and this is like my place of Zen in our house, and this is where I sit and kind of ground myself, talking about grounding, and has fish and frogs, and I just love it. And over the last 2 days, this heron came and cleaned us out of fish and frogs.
Oh,
and
they ate the frog? Also, they ate the
everything.
frog?
He ate everything.
Oh my gosh.
He just left the lilies. And I was just scandalized to my core. I'm like, my fish, it broke my heart.
Yeah.
But it was kind of humbling. I don't own it. I don't own anything. I'm part of. This is nature. My fish and my frogs are not mine. This pond is not mine. And we don't own our kids. We don't own the land. We don't own each other. We're part of. So I feel like this is how we need to carry ourselves, as part of a one. So.
I love that. That is so good.
I think that is like a beautiful conclusion to our second talk. Thank you so much, Nefrit, for sharing that. And for anyone who's watching, please share this conversation. Our goal is to bring more of light into the world, to spread this consciousness of love to what else is possible for ourselves and the world we are going to leave behind for our kids. We'll be back for part 3 next month. These are ongoing conversations. If there is a question that you have, please share in the comments. If there is a suggestion you have, you can share that in comments too. And if you have some kind of darkness to share, please keep it to yourself. Don't send it to my DM, because I have had enough of that. Just wanted to put that out there. And I think with that, we all are sending you love and light.
Yes.
And a lot of love to you. And may this conversation activate that unconditional love within you. Thank you so much
Thank
for
you
watching.
so much, Pastor Alan. Thank you for joining us too today.
Thank you, Alia. Thank you, Nefrit.
Thank you.
Love you all. Bye-bye.